Hello friends, welcome to Insights ICANN Initiative. In today's video, we are going to discuss about UAPA. I think most of you know that UAPA stands for Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. If you already know in which year UAPA was enacted, please leave your answer in the comment section. Meanwhile, first let us see the syllabus mapping, then video components before we start the actual analysis. Syllabus mapping. This particular topic related to government policies and interventions in relation to gender studies, paper 2. Video components. In this video, we are going to discuss about why it is in news. It is in news because Union government imposed or invoked UAPA against one news agency. The news agency name is NewsClick. Government of India imposed UAPA on this particular agency on the charges that this agency is using money from China, which is routed through America, and doing some anti-national activities. That is the reason UAPA sections been invoked against this agency. Which sections invoked we will discuss very soon. Then we will go through the UAPA and the context why UAPA been enacted. UAPA amended in 2019. One of the major changes been brought to the UAPA. What are the issues with UAPA and related Supreme Court rulings regarding the UAPA, and finally what is the way forward. So these we are going to discuss. You know students, UAPA is also a kind of preventive detention. Here you have to understand the security, the protection of the sovereignty is a main duty of the nation, main duty of the government. To protect the security of the country, there are certain laws being enacted by Indian Parliament. They are such as, one is UAPA, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. It is enacted in 1967 and it is still valid now. One more is AFSPA, Armed Forces Special Powers Act. It was enacted in 1958 and still it is continuing. And one more is NSA, National Security Act. It was enacted in 1980, still it is continuing. Meanwhile, so many other laws been enacted and they've been repealed as well, like PD Act, Preventive Detention Act, and MISA, Maintenance of Internal Security Act, TADA, Terrorist Activities and Disruption Act, POTA, Prevention of Terrorism Act. These acts been enacted and they've been repealed as well. But the acts which I said earlier, they've been enacted and still they are continuing in the best interest of the securing the sovereignty of the country, security of the country. Now, Delhi police has sealed the office of the NewsClick by invoking the UAPA. What are the main allegations? The main allegations are they are receiving the funding from China, which was routed through America, and this particular news agency is propagating the pro-China agenda, and of course which is the related to anti-Indians interest, and is also promoting the some of the terrorist kind of activities. That is what the claim of this agency. Now we'll see UAPA. UAPA is one of the powerful acts made by the Indian Parliament which given more powers to government compared to the ordinary criminal law. You know that ordinary criminal laws are there such as IPC, CRPC. Compared to those, this particular act gives much powers to the investigating agencies. And UAPA gives, like I said earlier, more powers compared to the IPC. And this UAPA was enacted in 1967. One of the main objective is to prevent the more effective prevention of certain unlawful activities, either related to individual or related to associations who are involving in terrorist activities. Here you have to understand students, when UAPA initially was enacted, this act was only related to organizations. Individuals were never covered in this act. Later, in 2019, we amended this to UAPA Act, and this UAPA Act been expanded even to the individuals also. That you have to understand. So it expanded to individuals as well. What is the meaning of unlawful activity, by the way? Any conduct which constitute a crime or which is violating this particular law, whether that activity occurred before this law came into existence or after this law came into existence, all those activities comes under the unlawful activities. In this particular UAPA, section 25 deals with the punishment. Any unlawful activity attracts punishment at least minimum from 5 years, even it may expand to the lifetime imprisonment as well, in case if that unlawful activity caused the death of the individuals. In that case, the punishment may even goes to the imprisonment for life. In this NewsClick agency case, what are the sections invoked against the NewsClick? Against the NewsClick, sections of UAPA as well as IPC both been invoked. Let us go through the sections invoked. Section 13 of UAPA, unlawful activities. Section 16, terrorist activities. Section 17, raising funds for terrorist activities. Section 18, conspiracy. Section 22C, offences made by companies and trust under UAPA. So these are the sections related to UAPA invoked against this particular news agency. What about the IPC? IPC section 153A, promoting the animosity between the different groups, as well as IPC section 120B, promoting criminal conspiracy. These are the sections invoked against this news agency. Next, according to this act, central government can issue a gazette, and in this gazette they can announce it that a particular activity is unlawful activity. So that means central government is having a reasonable high amount of this powers. And this act is applicable to whom? UAPA applicable to citizens who are living in India as well as outside of India, and persons in the service of government wherever they may be. That means it applicable to diplomats as well, and persons on ships like working on this defense related, navy related activities, as well as the merchant ships, aircrafts which are registered in India wherever they may be. So to all these people, so don't be under the wrong impression that this act is applicable only in India. No, it is applicable even outside of India. In polity classes, I told you that Parliament has extraterritorial jurisdiction as well. That means Parliament laws even applicable to outside of India, unlike laws made by the state legislature, where the laws made by the legislatures are applicable only within the states. The timeline. The maximum time agencies can take is 180 days after the arrest. Within 180 days, they have to file the charge sheet, and they have to finish the investigation within 90 days. If these timelines are not been followed by the investigating agencies, then the arrested person will get the default bail like statutory bail. All these UAPA cases will be dealt by the special courts which are having a similar powers like civil courts or sessions court, based on the whatever the act is saying. Next, UAPA amendments. In 2019, like I said earlier, as you know students, as time is changing, rather than group activity, the terrorism expanded to the individual activity, lone wolf attacks happening a lot. That is the reason UAPA amended, and UAPA expanded to the activities done by the individual as well, not only the groups. Okay, so central government can designate any organization as a terrorist organization which involves in the act of terrorism and prepares the terrorism ideology, promotes the terrorism, and otherwise involved in terrorism. Regarding this, an agency can be classified as terrorist organization. And by taking permission from the DGP, Director General of Police of related appropriate state, even the investigating agencies, generally NIA, they can seize the property as well. And this act defines terrorist acts under various treaties. Actually, this UAPA consists of 9 treaties. Out of that, important one are Convention for the Suppression of Terrorist Bombing 1997, Convention Against Taking of Hostages 1979, and International Convention for Suppression of Acts of Nuclear Terrorism 2005. So all these treaties are applicable, and these treaties are being integral part of the UAPA. Tell me students, which article of the Indian Constitution deals with the preventive detention, which I mentioned earlier in this video. So the main drawback, main challenge related to UAPA is the most surprising, shocking element is the conviction rate of UAPA is in and around 3%. That means if 100 persons are arrested under UAPA, the persons who are experiencing the trials, and after trial, the people who are getting convicted, they are around 3 people or less than 3 people. That means conviction rate is 3% or less than the 3%. That we have to know. And what are the issues related to UAPA? UAPA related issues, like I said earlier, low conviction rate, sharp rise in use. That means governments also sometimes they are becoming so intolerant. Even the minor protests also, they are attracting the UAPA. That means UAPA is using in a very anti-democratic way stringent provisions of bail. Getting bail is also very difficult regarding the UAPA because the onus, the responsibility is on the person who is experiencing the charges. They have to prove that they are eligible to get the bail. Highly discriminatory in nature because majority of these bail pleadings and all these things, these are happening in the closed door session. They are not in the open session. And this is completely the violation of fundamental rights because up to 180 days, you can keep the person into custody, 120 days investigation and by 180 days, within 180 days charge sheet. So it's a gross violation of fundamental rights. When Supreme Court also in various cases, in 2019, Supreme Court given a judgment in the case of NIA versus Jahur Ahmad Watali. In this case, Supreme Court clearly mentioned that while Supreme Court is dealing this kind of cases, it has to see prima facie, whether on surface, on the face of the case, whether that person is in relation to that case or not, without going into further detail. That means more or less getting bail is very difficult in this kind of cases. Because when courts don't go into the details of the case, generally when they stick to the prima facie means more or less they give more, they don't take the chance to give bail to the people, so they don't, because they are not going into the details of the case. So majority of the times they decline bail. So getting bail is very difficult in these cases. What is the way forward? The way forward is this act is creating a lot of debates in recent time because the way it is being abused and lack of proper mechanism to ensure the proper implementation of this act. So now it is the state as well as judiciary and civil society, everything, all these people, they have to balance the constitutional freedom as well as the anti-terrorist pursuit. Both have been balanced so that we can stop the abuse of this kind of laws. Now let's see the yesterday's video question. As per 2011 census, which of the following states of India is most densely populated? Which state? Bihar. Bihar is the state which is most densely populated. Now today's video question. Today's video question. Let's see. Consider the following statement regarding the protection of people arrested under preventive detention. Read these two statements and pick the right one. Mains question. Preventive detention laws in the country have come to associated with frequent misuse. Okay, PD laws are frequently been misused. Discuss issues arising out of preventive detention. Okay, what are the issues been arising out of the preventive detention? And the Supreme Court views on this particular issue. That is a mains question. Now, as we reach to the end of this video, let us quickly revise what we learn in this video. This video is all about the NewsClick and the central government is invoked UAPA on NewsClick. We discussed about some of the provisions invoked from UAPA and when the UAPA enacted some of the laws made by the Indian Parliament for the security of the nation. We also discussed about, how this, what kind of issues been facing by the UAPA. That also we consider, and what is the major issue, what happened with the NewsClick, and what are the punishment provisions also we discussed in relation to UAPA. So this is the detailed analysis regarding the NewsClick issue in relation to UAPA.